Hello, welcome to my video. I hope you enjoyed the last one. In this video we'll continue working on the chassis, especially the rear Y section. I'll show you some improvements that I'm making on the engine mounts. I hope you enjoy. This is something that I'm doing at the moment. It's not really a repair as such, but it's an improvement to the chassis. This is a reinforcement plate for the motor mounts because they're at the back, but the problem is this plate is spot welded to the backbone and it isn't seam welded around, so all of the moisture goes in between those plates and creates a lot of rust. You can't really see it, but the edges are a little bit rusty, and if I don't fix it right now, the rust will seep through eventually. So the first thing I'll do, I'm going to cut both of these stack welds with my Dremel so I can get my chisel behind this plate. There we go. Now I'm going to check if I can get my chisel behind it. We have a gap, so now we can start drilling out these spot welds. Well, now it's time to find out if I drilled deep enough. So now that I've removed the top ones, I'll just move down to the next ones, and I'll catch back up with you when I've done them all. As you can see, I drilled out all of the spot welds and removed the top part of the plate from the chassis. Now I'll try to get the bottom part to separate. Alright, all of the spot welds are clear. Let's try to take out the plate. It's still tacked in these corners, but maybe you can pry it off. Here, as you can see, the rusted surface and the remainder of the spot welds. I'll cut this off with my Dremel, and then I'll clean the surface with an angle grinder. I've removed all the high spots. Now I'm going to use a wire wheel to get rid of all the rust. And then we'll see how it looks. All the rust is removed. So we're ready for the replacement strengthening plate. This is the original strengthening plate that I took off of the chassis. It's pretty beat up, it's crooked, there's a lot of rust on this side. We can throw this away. I made my own strengthening plate just from the original dimensions. It's the original style plate, same thickness. I've made these bands on a bench vise with a hammer, but they've come out pretty okay. The only thing I have to do now is I'm going to clean up these holes that I made when I removed the spot welds. I'll weld these up and grind them flat, Then I'll show you how I'm going to weld this to the chassis. I filled in all of these holes that were in there by welding it. Then I ground off all the excess weld. I'm wearing these gloves because I don't want any of my dirty hands getting on this surface for now. I will be degreasing this with paint degreaser, and then I'll paint this with a weldable zinc spray. It's a weld-through primer. I'll do this because once that I've welded this plate on here, I can't reach the backside. So I want to protect this to prevent rust, but I need to be able to weld this. So I'll paint it with a zinc spray. Just taped off the area that needs to be painted. Now I'm going to degrease this with a paint degreaser. As you can see, it's as clean as I'm going to get this in this environment. I'll do the same on the other side and on the back side of the strengthening plates, but I'll just show you this side so you know the process. Okay. Now I'm going to put on the first coat. Then I'm going to let it dry a bit. Then I'll put on the second coat and see if maybe a third one is necessary. And then I'll let it completely dry out before I weld it. Now the first coat has gone pretty tacky. Some places it's dry, some places it's still wet, but I'm going to apply the second coat as I'm going to do it on all the other pieces. Okay, now it's time for the third and final coat. Then I'll remove all of the masking tape, so because if it gets hard it could peel off some of the paint. Now, I can see immediately there's a lot of paint on it. I hope I didn't overdo it, but I want to be sure there was enough paint to protect it during its lifetime. This is the strengthening plate that bolts on this side. As you can see, it's also been painted in the zinc primer. This way, when I weld it, it can penetrate, but only the parts that I will weld will burn off, the rest will still be painted. Once the paint has dried completely, I'll tighten these bolts, and this will make sure the plate will stay in the right place, and then I'll seam weld around it, so no moisture can penetrate between the two plates. So to finish this off, I've seam welded around the edges of this plate. I found it very tricky because this inside corner joint, this falls away from the joint itself because of those bands. I had to try quite a few times to get this right, but in the end it came out quite okay. On the top and the bottom I ground off the welds so it sits flush with the chassis. This is structurally very good, and this will protect those plates from rust because the moisture can seep in from the edges. If moisture would seep in through the spacing in the bolt holes, there's still the zinc spray that will protect it from corrosion. I hope this will last for another 40 years. This is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment below to tell me what you think. Tell me what I can improve and what you'd like to see in the next videos. You can also subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my videos, and you can visit my blog where there are a lot of pictures and some more explanation about the things that I'm doing. The link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. And no. Material things might make you happy. In them to put your trust.